Today's program is brought to you by OTCStockShark.com. For the latest and greatest OTC and Pink Sheets information, sign up for your account at OTCStockShark.com. Thank you for tuning in to TBC Today. I'm Brandon Vincent.
And I'm Angelina Soriano.
In today's financial news, the stock market posted its steepest drop since the anxious days of early 2009 as worries that Europe's debt crisis would weigh heavily on global growth. The declines accelerated late in the session, leaving both the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P off more than 10% from their recent highs, the traditional Wall Street definition of a correction. In the current plunge, some participants are worried that there could be further losses, that perhaps the bull run itself has crested. For many investors, Europe's recent struggles have conjured fears that those that resulted from late 2008 meltdown of Lehman Brothers holdings, which roiled the U.S. financial system. The Dow slid 376 points, or 3.6%, to end off at 10% from its 2010 high and its biggest point drop since February of 2009. The S&P fell 3.9% to end down 12% from its high, its biggest point drop. Even the Dow component was down, and only 3 stocks gained in the S&P. The Nasdaq Composite Index, which first moved into correction territory on May 7th, has moved back and forth above the 10% down threshold since. But it is now back below the mark after plunging 4.1% off 12.9% from its 2010 high.
In U.S. news, General Motors wrote expense from its bankruptcy and strong sales of redesigned models to its first quarterly new income in nearly 3 years, drawing the company closer to a stock offering that would repay at least part of its government aid. The $865 million first quarter profit is a dramatic reversal from the huge $6 billion loss in the same period last year. The last time the company made a quarterly profit was the second quarter of 2007, when it earned $891 million. The Detroit automaker said it made money because debt and other expenses were slashed by its stay in bankruptcy court and because of strong new model sales. It also generated higher revenue from growth in Asia and South America. The earnings of $1 per share from January through March are stunningly different from the first quarter of last year, when the largest U.S. automaker lost $9 per share as it skidded into bankruptcy protection. First quarter revenue soared 40% to $31.5 billion. GM lost $3.4 billion in the fourth quarter of 2009 on revenues of $32 billion, the company's first full quarter out of bankruptcy protection. New models such as the Chevrolet Equinox small sport utility vehicle and the Buick LaCrosse luxury sedan lifted GM's North American operations to a $1.2 billion profit, compared with a $3.4 billion loss in the year earlier quarter. North America has been a continual drain on GM's profits before its bankruptcy filing last year. CEO Ed Whitaker has predicted a full-year profit as U.S. auto sales continue their slow recovery that could lead to a public stock offering late in the year and full repayment of the $50 billion in U.S. government aid that stopped GM from going under last year. The U.S. government now owns 61% of the company. The company reported $35.7 billion in cash at the end of the quarter, including a final installment in April of $6.6 billion in aid from the U.S. government. That money had been held in escrow by the government and is included in the $50 billion aid total. GM has lost more than $86 billion since 2005, even though it has a few profitable quarters along the way. Before heading into bankruptcy protection last year, it had almost $53 billion in debt, but it ended last quarter at $14 billion. GM paid $5.8 billion to the U.S. and Canadian governments in April, reducing its debt further to $8.4 billion.
In today's international news, China urged restraint after South Korea formally accused North Korea of sinking one of its warships 2 months ago, spotlighting the country's decisive role in what happens next. South Korea markets and its currency fell after North Korea issued a swift denial. South Korea plans to take its findings to the United Nations Security Council in hopes of securing some form of international condemnation or penalty against the North. China, North Korea's biggest benefactor and closest ally, holds one of Security Council's 5 permanent seats and can veto and action. The issue dominated the bi-weekly news conference at China's foreign ministry. A spokesman reacted cautiously and said China would conduct an assessment of the evidence, though not a formal investigation. Asked whether China doubted South Korea's findings, the spokesman said that China would assess them. U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will arrive in Japan and China for a previously scheduled trip that will now be influenced by South Korea's findings.
In entertainment news, MTV is set to grant a series order to Teen Wolf, a project based on the 1985 Michael J. Fox film. Tyler Posey will star as a high school student who gets superpowers, including the ability to woo girls after a wolf attack. The move has the network betting that after a couple hit vampire shows like HBO's True Blood and Twilight, Supernatural TV fans might be primed for a more furry hero. Teen Wolf joins another MTV project, a domestic version of the UK hit Skins that recently received a series order at the network. Also in entertainment news, the independent studio behind Twilight said it reached a deal with Ashley Greene and Kellen Lutz to reprise their supporting roles as vampires in the fourth film in the franchise. Media reports in recent days has indicated Greene and Lutz were in a salary dispute with Summit Entertainment over their roles in the Twilight saga Breaking Dawn, which is due out in November 2011. But after the actors and Summit reached a deal, the studio named them as cast members in the upcoming film. Greene and Lutz play members of the Cullen vampire clan who fight their urge for human flesh. That makes them kin to Edward Cullen, the romantic lead played by Robert Pattinson. Greene plays Alice Cullen in the Twilight series, which is her biggest role so far after previously appearing in the television show Desire. Lutz plays Emmett Cullen after having previously starred in cable network HBO's miniseries Generation Kill. The movie franchise is based on the book series by author Stephanie Meyer about the love affair between high school student Bella Swan and Edward Cullen. In 2008, Twilight made $409 million at worldwide box offices. Last year's sequel, The Twilight Saga: New Moon, made $710 million, and the third film, The Twilight Saga: Eclipse, is due out on June 30th.
When you've got a serious leak, it's time for Leakender 2000. It fixes any leak fast, no matter what's leaking. Just spray it with Leakender 2000, and in minutes, the leak is sealed. Look, we'll cut this garden hose with a knife, then shut off the water and spray on Leakender 2000. Minutes later, the hose is as good as new. The cut is sealed. Leakender 2000 is a unique compound that fills and seals any crack or separation as it hardens. Why put up with gushing gutters, dripping drains, wet windowsills, and rain-soaked RVs? Leakender 2000 stops all those leaks, and it's yours for only $14.95. Call now and we'll double your order. We'll send you this giant-size can at no extra charge. Order now.
To order, have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-936-0300 or send check or money order for $14.95 plus $5.95 shipping to the address on your screen. Call 1-800-936-0300.
In today's tech news, Google TV, an Android-based operating system for the big screen, will power Logitech's new set-top box, the still not properly named Google TV Companion box. The sleek black Apple TV-sized box will run on a 1.2 GHz Atom processor with 4 gigs of memory, 802.11n Wi-Fi, dual HDMI outputs, Dolby 5.1 surround sound, and a pair of USB ports. Even if you hook up a webcam, you can video chat at 720p. The box, which will launch in the fall, will at first be available to U.S. customers only. It will hook up to your TV and then pull in content from cable, satellite, and compatible DVRs. In short, you can Google the entire internet, plus your home for TV shows and watch them whenever they may be. Even the remote controls are exciting. While there will be a regular RF controller available, you'll be able to install an app on your iPhone or Android phone with a keyboard and a touch D-pad. These will control not only the Logitech box, but compatible TVs and set-top boxes right from the phone. Next to Google TV, the Apple TV is starting to look less like a hobby and more like an embarrassing habit Apple is trying to quit. Video content is one place where more is better. Sure, Apple TV can grab most things from the iTunes store, but with a built-in Chrome browser, Google TV will grab content from anywhere that puts video on the web. The closest rival Apple has right now is probably the iPad. Maybe this is the kick in the pants that Apple needs to finally update its own set-top box to something nearing useful.
In health news, when back and neck aches strike, do you wonder whether to reach for a heating pad or an ice pack? A small study suggests it may not matter in which one you choose. In fact, researchers say it seems that neither heat nor cold will do much to ease back or neck pain, at least immediately. That conclusion might sound surprising since conventional wisdom holds that cold and heat therapy are effective ways to manage minor injuries such as sprains and strains. Often the advice is to use ice immediately after an injury, then heat in the days afterward. But there has been relatively little research evidence to back up those recommendations, and few studies have compared heat and cold in helping to ease the short-term pain of strains. The new study published in the journal Academic Emergency Medicine included 60 patients who came to the emergency room for minor strains to the back or neck, most often the back. All of the patients were given 400 milligrams of ibuprofen, then randomly assigned to use either a heating pad or a cold pack for 30 minutes. After the half hour was up, the researchers found patients in both groups typically reported mild pain relief. The study did not follow up with patients in the days after their injuries, so it's possible that either heat or cold, despite a lack of strong immediate effects, might have ultimately led to a quicker recovery. And since patients in the study all had strains, the findings would not necessarily apply to other types of injuries, including sprains.
Thank you for tuning in to TBC Today. I'm Brandon Vincent.
And I'm Angelina Soriano.